quick video today because I wanted to go through the 2027 Porsche 718 Cayman EV. We now have new photos of it, spy photos of course, and also a rendering by an independent designer, which I think looks very, very cool. And I think this is going to be one of the most interesting cars of 2027. Probably going to be dropped, I guess if it's 2027 model year, it's probably going to be dropped next year, this one. And I also think they're going to drop the Boxster EV. And the reason why I think this is such an interesting vehicle is because it is Porsche. And it is their smaller sports car, which is all about driving dynamics and all about the engine noise from the Boxster and the Cayman. And now we have that in an EV setting. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Porsche is going to do with this powertrain to make it feel special. And they admit themselves that it is very hard to make it feel as dynamic as the internal combustion engine. So we're going to have a look at this article from Car Scoops. I'm going to link it down below, and also have a look in detail of the spy photos and see what we can make out of the design there. So 2027 Porsche 918 Cayman EV rendered to reality. The pressure is on the brand to ensure the electric Cayman feels like a real Porsche, and that is a major challenge, of course. But they do have the Taycan, which is one of the better driving EVs out there. I mean, it feels like a sports car, that thing, and it's extremely quick as well, and it handles fantastic with the center of gravity sitting so low in that car. And on top of that, I think the design, the Taycan is definitely one of the better looking EVs out there. It doesn't really look like an EV. It looks more like almost like a mid-engine car. So Porsche is developing single and dual motor versions of the Cayman EV. Great to see. The brand has reportedly been finding it hard to match the dynamics of the ICE version, and that just makes it even more exciting to see what they're going to do here with this powertrain. We'll likely take heavy design inspiration from the existing Taycan, and here you can see the rendering. We have a couple of views of this from the front and the rear that we're going to check out further down in this article. Porsche may have changed its strategy to include more gas-powered models in the years to come, which is something that pretty much I would say every single manufacturer that said that they were going to go into full EV have now switched strategy, and they are going to at least include a lot more hybrids, which I think is fantastic news. But it's not turning its back on electric vehicles, much to the dismay of purists who aren't thrilled about seeing their favorite mid-engine sports car go electric. But if any brand knows how to make an electric sports car actually exciting, it is Porsche. And I would argue that it's also BMW with, as I said before when talking about EVs, the i4 M50. And if the camera is shaking a little bit now, Rosie is down there and playing around with the tripod, so I apologize for that. In late January, the first prototypes of the Cayman EV was snapped up close, revealing a design that's easily identifiable as a Porsche, but has many points of difference from the current Cayman, of course. I don't think there are too many differences here from the spy photos, looking at those and comparing it to the current Cayman. Specifically when it comes to the proportions, I think this is is going to be a very, very clean looking EV for sure. So we have these digital renderings here from artist Kelsonic, and you can go and check him out on Instagram. And these are of course based on the recent prototype photos. And the front of the Cayman EV could take inspiration from both the 911 and the all-electric Taycan sedan. And when I look at these renderings here and also the spy photos, it's kind of strange to see such big air intakes and grills in the front end. I do know that EVs need to cool the battery. Usually it's just a small little slot at the lower section. Maybe these are sort of air ducts on the side to funnel air and bring some downforce or something like that. I'm not sure. Or if it's all actually for cooling the battery. I'm not entirely sure. So it features a grill and air intake similar to those of the Cayman GT4, paired with headlights reminiscent of the Taycan. The nose also appears slightly shorter than the current Cayman, but the proportions remained well balanced. And I definitely agree with that. Let's check out these renderings here. So here we have the rear view of the current one and the new one from the rendering here. You can see how the rear end looks a little bit shorter in this case. I'm not sure if it feels like the perspective is maybe a bit off here. You can see the wheel look like it's turned inwards a little bit too much. So I don't know. I'm not sure about the proportions here, but when it comes to the graphics, really like what's going on here. We have a simple styling for the rear end with two LEDs here in the rear end design. You also have the charging port right here in the center, and that is in fact how it's going to look, or where it's going to be positioned on the production version, because that is you can see that in the spy photos as well. I do like the taillight design. Maybe could have had a little bit more personality to the taillights. We're going to have to see if it's a full light bar or if it's two separated lights like this, which sort of reminds me a little bit of the, is it McLaren Artura, I think, that has two lights like that. So we can see a clear view of the rear view. And this is the front view right here. This is clearly Taycan, in this rendering at least. This is clearly taken from the Taycan headlights right here and the GT4, right? Cayman. Down here at the bottom, you can see that we have the same sort of intakes here. I don't think we're going to have this many intakes. Maybe, I could be wrong, because on the spy photos, again, you can clearly see that we have huge intakes here on the lower section. And that makes me think that maybe, I don't know, maybe Porsche is sort of playing it safe here and engineering this from the start to be both an EV and an internal combustion engine. I think that would be a pretty smart idea to do, because they don't know. Nobody knows how well these are going to sell when they come out on the market. It's kind of tough it's a hard sell when you had these beautiful internal combustion engine Caymans and Boxsters on the market for so long, and everybody loves them so much. So it's a huge challenge to get this right, and I'm looking forward to see how that's going to go. We do have the rear end. Gone are the oval-shaped taillights that we come to expect from the sports car series, and sitting in their place, and now we have these horizontal LEDs that we saw in the rendering, and significant changes has also been made to the car's rear bumper and diffuser, and you can see the charging port sitting right in the center of the rear fascia. I think it's a pretty interesting location for the charging port. I'm not sure if that's going to make it easier when you back up to the charge port and tuck it in like that in the center of the car, or having it be on one side. It's going to have to wait and see how that works in the real world later on. There is no word on how much power, I think they should say power here, they just forgot the word, will have, but it's safe to assume it will outperform the current car, which I think it's probably going to do with an EV powertrain like this. And here we have the actual car. Now, looking at the proportions of this thing, I think it looks great. I don't think we're going to have a full light bar. As you can see, we do have just two LED bars like this separated, and you can see the charging port right here in the middle. The wheels look pretty cool as well. I don't think these are the production wheels that are going to go in the production car. And looking at the proportions overall, it doesn't, to me at least, it doesn't look like an EV to me. It still looks like a mid-engine car, and that is a good thing. And as I said, I do think they might actually have a backup plan, or maybe they even have those plans in motion right now, to have this be both an EV and an internal combustion engine, similar to what they did with the Macan EV as well. And this is a photo that I really like, because here you can see just how beefy the rear end is. And this is what you want to see in Porsches, this big muscle over the rear axle, looking great, properly planting the car. You can see how this rear fender, it doesn't have any sharp lines on it, and we don't want to have sharp lines on a Porsche like this, or any Porsche. It's all about fluid motions and very organic shapes and surfaces. You can see that this fender houses the entire wheel, and this rear wheel sort of sticks out of the body, and that is what gives us this properly planted look. You can see the Taycan-inspired headlights here as well. I don't see anything strange about these proportions. It looks like a very, very good looking EV to me, and I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do with the Boxster as well. So this is a proper side view here, and you can see they said in the article that the nose feels like it's a little bit shorter than the current Cayman, but I don't really see that. This looks like it doesn't have this, abrupt downward curve like we've used to seeing from, for example, in the beginning of the EV era. We had that in specifically the Kia EV6. The front end just slopes very, very harshly, and it doesn't look that good. Mercedes on the EQ series had similar styling to that as well, but this one looks properly stretched out. The wheelbase, you can see that the wheels sit in the proper position, not out here in the very far end of the car, and that makes me think again that this is actually going to be an internal combustion engine as well. I'm not sure if they've announced that or anything yet, but looking at the pictures, definitely feels like that is the way Porsche is about to go with this car. So looking at the proportions here and the graphics for the spy photos from Car Scoops, we can see here that we do have the Taycan headlights in the front end, and we also have these massive intakes down here, which is super interesting to see because we still have an intake down here in the middle. So as I said, I'm not sure if this is for cooling or this is sort of air ducts to just flow air through here and through the wheelhouse and create some sort of stability or something like that. I don't know what it's for. And then you have this big massive fender in the rear end looking beautiful, and the greenhouse looks really nice as well. Clearly a Porsche, and if you just overlay this over the current Taycan, I mean the Cayman and the Boxster, it's not really that big of a change, and that is of course in line with what Porsche is doing with their design language, just to have very subtle changes from generation to generation and just evolve the car. Now, one thing I'm not entirely sure about here is if this is in fact a side blade there, an intake in the lower section right behind the door. It's very hard to see in these photos, but then that again would just makes me wonder, why would you need to have that if this is if this is only going to be a full EV? It just doesn't make sense to me personally. You can see how the greenhouse here slopes beautifully down into the taillights, and I honestly think, just looking at these photos here, I think this is going to be one of the best looking EVs on the market when this eventually comes out, hopefully next year. I think we're probably going to see the final version, the production version, in photos and videos within maybe at the end of this year, hopefully. And I'm really looking forward to see how Porsche is going to solve this issue to try and really make this EV live up to what people are used to when it comes to the performance and also the design from the internal combustion engine versions of the Cayman and the Boxster.